All right, so welcome again. This is Yoga and Business, and it is July 11th, and I'm here with Eva Hoffman, who is my dear friend and sister from when we met first in 2015, I believe it was, maybe 14, at the end of 2014, back in Ojai, California. And before I really get into the conversation with you, I just want to let people who are watching this, if this is their first time here, this conversation that I invite us to participate in here, Yoga and Business, is about how yoga is life and the business of your life is what I'm really passionate about. And how we choose to focus on different aspects of our work and our family and our friends and our community and all these responsibilities and these passions and struggles and the challenges and the changes that are continuous in our life. This is, to me, the beautiful aspect of yoga and business, and how we can create a life full of beauty and business that can support us in all different kinds of ways, I think now more than ever. And I think, Eva, you, first of all, thank you for being here.
Inviting.
Yeah, because you really are one of the most dynamic women that I've ever met. And it's true. And so would you please, first of all, would you please show people your book? Because your book, yeah. So you wrote this book when?
I wrote this book actually when I was pregnant with my third child. And when I found out that I was pregnant with my first child, I just have started to live in California because we have just left Egypt, where we lived before, previous 9 years. And my experience in Egypt was very beautiful, but also very painful at the end. And because it was so painful, I would say I had a really dark place in my heart. When I left Egypt, I never wanted to come back anymore. And when I then figured out that I was pregnant, I was like with two things in my heart. On the one side, full of joy of the new life starting in me, but on the other side, thinking I have that plague thing inside of me full of hate. And so I wanted to get it out. And for me, the way to get it out was just to write it down. I had written down parts of the story in my diary all the time, but I never had connected the dots. And so I made it as my thing to connect all the dots and to make a script before my baby boy was born. And this is how that script started. And then when my baby was born and I felt so much better, I then found someone who helped me to bring it into a really good form as a novel, because I wanted to have it. When I had it all out, somehow I was reading it myself and I was telling some people about it, and it seemed like a telenovela. So it didn't seem like a normal story. And so I just thought I need to bring it out in a very humorous way. I didn't want to have it in a black way. I wanted to have it that people are fascinated about the story and they want to read it, and that it's also not as black as it is, because it's actually always two sides. So when I say it were my most awful years of my life, they in the same time were my most beautiful years in my life. So to have those both things together. And so that book actually was my therapy, because once my baby boy was born, 3 months later, I went back to Egypt, to the same place, and I could with an easy heart. So that is the reason of the book. And so that reason doesn't depend how many people will read it. It made it worth for me to write it, to get that out.
And it's such a powerful story that you share. And I think it's so fascinating, all the different lives I feel like you've led as a woman before you were a mother, and then becoming a mother, and now where motherhood has taken you. can you tell people a little bit, like, you grew up in Germany?
Yeah, so I grew up in Germany, and I would say, I think quite traditional, or maybe a little bit different, because it was never so much mainstream, because in the house where I grew up, my mom made already yoga. So we are talking about 45 years ago. All right. So my mom made yoga. She was sprouting. She was making her bread. So it was quite alternative. And so I grew up there, but my always thing was, I want to go out in the world. I knew that from the beginning. I want to go out. I don't want to stay in Germany. I want to go as far as I can. And so that was the thing how I grew up. And so right after I finished high school, I went to Italy, because my passion, which started when I was 14 years old, was creating clothes. I loved clothing, and with the traditional, a little bit more conservative way, I could never buy the things I liked. And so instead of buying the things I liked, I did do them myself. And so nobody could say you can't wear them. Yeah,
And
this is
that is actually how we met. Was I wanted to learn how to sew.
yeah, this is how we came together, that
Yeah.
you came to one of my sewing classes. Yeah. Yeah. And so this is how I started. And then I made more and more. And it seemed that I was really, really good in that, because my first project I made was always recycled material. So not only that, I tried all the patterns out with my mom's sheets. So the sheets she had gotten for her wedding. So those ones I did cut in pieces, because they were never used. But I also took denims, just jeans. I took jeans and I cut jeans apart and made jackets out of it with leather pieces. And they were so popular that I did sell them to boutiques. So I had my first selling of my styles, I think, when I was 15 or something like this. So from that, that was my thing. I wanted to do fashion, and I would have done anything to go that way. And so one of the things was, when I finished high school, I moved to Italy to study fashion design in Italy. That was the first thing, because the funny thing was, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So when you wanted to study fashion design in Germany, you had to give a portfolio with a lot of sketches. I was never strong in sketching. I was strong in doing it, in realizing it by the material. So none of the schools took me. So the last one, which we were waiting for, I said, okay, I'm not going to wait here for nothing. Anyhow, I would like to go to Italy. So I took my car and I drove down to Italy, and I checked out all the schools in Italy. And by the time I came back, I did not want to go anymore to Germany. Even so, they accepted me at the end. And I said, like, no, I don't want to go. I want to go to Italy. And then I went to Italy and I studied fashion in Italy. Yeah.
Well, and then how many countries have you lived in now? Because you've counted at one point.
So I have lived then in Italy while I was studying, in my first years of my fashion life. And then I left Italy because the company I was working for burned down, and it wasn't easy to find another place to go, because in Italy the story was also this. So fashion is very much owned by families. And so, or you are in the right family and then you find the right workplace, or you sleep your way up, which was also not my kind of way. And so I met a girl, because living in Rome, I got lots of visitors, because all the other kids in Germany who knew that I was living in Rome did send me friends over, whatever. So I had many people coming and going. And so there was also one girl coming from Germany, from Cologne. She was a friend of someone, and she told me that she had studied fashion design in Germany, and she explained me how the fashion world was working in Germany. And from that moment, I got really curious, because the difference was, in Italy, you had all small companies. So you designed the thing, and you had a laboratory close to you, which were for making the first sample. And then you gave it for production also in Italy. So the whole chain of production from the moment of the sketch till you had the finished product was all close by. In Germany, you have no company which is making any stitching. So you make the sketch and you send it overseas, wherever that is. You might send it to Italy from Germany, but you might send it also to China. You might send it to India. And then they send you the sample back. And then you have to correct the sample. And then you have to send it again there. And then you get the production back. So it's a completely different way of working, which is a lot of traveling involved, because you have to go visit all the suppliers everywhere in the world, and you have to sample everywhere in the world. So it's a much more international business. And that was then when I heard that, I said, like, that is what I want to do. There I want to go. Okay. And so I came back to Germany to try to find a company which was giving me this kind of work. And I found it. Because somehow in the conversation with you, you know, I have my book close to me, which the title is Follow Your Heart. And when I now talk to you, I can just say, I think this is what I always did. I just cannot do different.
Well, and it's interesting that you talk about how you grew up in a household where actually your mom was practicing yoga. And I am curious if, you know, if she was very encouraging of you following your heart.
Oh, no.
She wasn't.
She wasn't. I think she did yoga by that time more for the physical aspect of it. It wasn't no other kind of thing. I wouldn't say, okay, so how I know her and how I also know her until now, for her, it is very hard and incomprehensive, the life I'm doing. She would have wished for me a more, let's say, I just follow a husband who does the life, who follows his heart, and I follow him. So that would have been her thing.
Well, here we are. And you are happily married, let us say, for quite a long time now. How many years?
12 years we are married, 13 years we are together.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, my second husband, so it's not my first.
Yeah, but beautiful relationship that I do want to honor that you have cultivated, because to me, this is the conversation. It's not just the business that you've done in your life of the fashion designer, and then, you know, you had a life here as a baker. The sourdough bread of Ojai was famously yours, you know, and your doTERRA business, your health coaching business now, you know, we can talk about that. And I think it's interesting too, having known you over these last 7 years, and creating doTERRA business together, and also experiencing yoga and practicing yoga together, and a different kind of yoga perhaps than what your mom was teaching you at all, which we can say is about activating your heart, and actually not even just activating, but coming into that deep holding and feeling and awareness of what your heart really is wanting, and then learning how to create the ability to stand strongly in your own ground and receive all these opportunities and challenges that will, you know, inevitably come your way as you follow your heart and listen to what it's saying. And I think it's interesting that you also are known as an activator in the Strengths Finder test, you know, that, and I think it is important to note, because I think some people could look at everything that you've accomplished and be like they do just want to have a husband and raise their kids, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to throw that out there, you know, there's that is as full of a life as anyone, in my opinion, you know, can possibly have, then it's not about comparing how much we achieve and accomplish. I think you strike me as such an incredible woman because you are an activator and you've stepped into that. And I think in my work with you and the other women of doTERRA, we use a lot the Gallup Strengths Finder to understand how to step into these aspects of ourselves that are our natural gifts. And your biggest gift is that, you know?
But you know what you also have to know, and this I really have to say, and this is a joke between me and my husband, because he always says, you start the things and I have to finish them. And I have to keep them going. And that is, I really have to say, it is like this. I have really a lot of power to start a new project and to get it going. And that is then all my thing. And then to really follow up and follow through all those different businesses, what I have, sometimes it gets a bit like that is not my biggest strength. Okay. And so I have someone on my side who is always there and saying like, listen, here, that has to be done. This has to be done. And he is really collecting the pieces and working on them. And so this is really the combination. I think if you have someone on your side who goes in the same direction, you can do so many more things.
Yeah.
And relationships aren't easy.
Honor you.
Relationships aren't easy. And I think often because most of my friends actually don't have long-lasting relationships. And often when I tell them and I say like, this is my situation or that is my situation, and they say like, just leave him, just make it alone and stuff. And then I just think like, but there is so many things on the other side, which you might not even be able to see and realize because you basically do not have those kind of things. So those are so carrying you. Just to say, like yesterday we made this party. So my husband has done parties with a lot of people all over the world. So when he then says, and you don't know with the weather here, where you do it, how you do it, I would be totally stressed if I wouldn't have him saying like, oh, you don't worry, let's see, we put the furniture here, we put the furniture there. And at the end, I know he throws it all together and it's going to be wonderful. So I can be the host and be on the part of just being there with the people or being there with the food, because I know all the rest of stuff is cared for.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I think it's so wonderful that you are committed to that. You're both committed to this relationship that you've built. And to me, that is something that I greatly value and respect you for staying in that relationship and, going.
Believe me, it's not always roses.
I know, I've heard sometimes, but I hear you and I see what you're building together like that. And I just, I really honor you. And you talked about food. And I think that's one of the pieces of your business. It's one of your gifts. It's one of your passions that after the fashion world, maybe that came into your life because you opened in Egypt.
No, what it was when so there were two things why it came in my life. So it came in my life first with my husband by that time, with that new man in my life. Because imagine you are dating a guy, you go with him for dinner, and after that you had your meal in the restaurant, he disappears in the toilet and doesn't come back. And you're like, what's going on? Then you cook at home, same story happens. And you're like, this is not normal, what's going on? And then I asked him and I said like, so what's happening? And he says, yeah, I throw up after I eat. And I'm like, what, all the time? He says, I get basically nearly all the time. And I'm like, why? He says like, I don't know, but there's so many things I can just not digest. And this has just for many years in my life like this. And I was like, that's not possible. We have to find out the reason. And so I started to investigate and I started just to leave out a lot of stuff and try to find food so that this guy doesn't throw up when I feed him.
Wow.
And this was my journey, how I did find out that there are some people who are really sensitive to so many things. And he then told me that he has been growing up on a lot of TV dinners and that he has eaten a lot of unhealthy food in his life. And then he has been in Africa for a long time where there was really great food, and that he just thinks that he screwed up his stomach for good. And I never believed that there's something would happen to you for good. So you always can fix it and can improve it. And so I tried. And so when we then decided to move to the States, and I was shocked about going in a supermarket, people say like, this is food.
Yeah.
I was completely shocked. And also, I mean, we were in Ojai, California, where it is still very alternative, where we are still quite on the healthy side, but still seeing also in school so many overweight kids. My first thought was like, I don't want to have my kids to deal with this ever. And so this is why my passion right away switched. I said, like, I don't care about that, those clothes so much. I think it's really important to figure out what you can do to have healthy food. I mean, for my husband, I knew that I had to be quite strict, but also for my kids, never to go in this kind of side. And this is how I became so passionate about it, and how then I started really studying it, because in Egypt I had to do with food for the baking. And the baking came just out of because I loved baking, and I thought in Egypt we didn't need any clothes because we were in a beach town, so there wasn't much needed. So this is why I did the baking, but it was still not about the health part of it. It was more the fun part of it. The health part of it came really in California when I was like, okay, I grew up on healthy food. I was very lucky all my life, but I saw that it's so easy to go in that trap. And so this is why I then studied all what you could learn about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm going to be mindful of our time.
Yeah.
And my battery's getting quite low. But I want to definitely in the comments below and the links that we'll share, I want people to learn more about the food support and nutritional support that you're able to provide, because I think it is huge. And this is a huge thing that we share, is just a love of healthy food and of growing your own food and being connected to your food and your body, and loving yourself and feeling the best that you can, and being committed to helping others doing that, and our children, obviously. And
I think finding solutions is really
right,
what we share. Finding solutions
together.
and
Yeah.
never giving up, right?
Yeah, and never giving up. And I think I feel so blessed to have gotten to, become your friend, and you've come into my community and I've come into your community, and there's so many layers of support that we're able to offer all of the people that we come into contact with. And it's one of the things that I'm most grateful for, especially in our New Moon Sangha, that coincides with yoga and business, is the incredible women. Men are invited too, but it is women that come, and the amount of wisdom that we all are able to support each other with, in a genuine way of just sharing and showing up and being present, with who's there. And I think you're amazing for how you followed your heart continuously over the years. And I just hope that everyone gets a chance to really get to know you better and work with you. And I wanted people to know that on the 23rd, Eva and I are going to do about a 30-minute workshop on cooking with essential oils. And we'll have a lot of amazing recipes to share. I'm sure that book is coming one day. We've talked about it. So we're excited to bring you a lot of wonderful things that you can make for yourself and feel really nourished and satisfied, and build community and build healthy families. And be friends with the bees that are flying around my head. So on that note, Eva, anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, I can just say from my side that it's the very same thing. You have been such an amazing friend and so inspiring, and bringing me in your community. And like we were saying, it's just this community thing. So the other day when we had to do something and you asked me to do a certain presentation and I didn't know what to do, we had another friend jumping in and saying like, listen, I'm going to teach you. And she just came on a Zoom with me, and in 20 minutes, she taught me how to change those slides, and just to have this possibility to just easy help each other. And that is an amazing community. I think what I had the access through you. So if really those people that I always know they're there. Let's say for me to join the community of doTERRA was really that, because I know if I need to know questions which I don't know myself, I can just reach out and I get answers.
Yeah.
And that is amazing.
Yeah, and that's such a huge thanks to Dana Schwartz and David Watts and all the visionary leaders, you know, under Aaron Fugate, Aaron and Gabe. And yeah, we're really, I mean,
we are not alone.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not. And I think that's the thing about, for me, just again, to bring it back to yoga and business, and like you were saying before, it's about continuing to follow your heart by quite often, I think, leaning into your strengths and these things that we enjoy doing, that we're naturally good at. I really believe that the more we follow our heart and do those things, we are able to show up in a bigger way. And then those other things that we're not as good with, it's such a beautiful opportunity to create friendships and allow other people to come into your life and support you in that way. And then like we create these starfish that are like deeply interwoven, you know, with each other. So
yeah, that is really like this. And I have to say, if we are talking about the yoga side, is for me, I have done a lot of yoga before I came to California, but I always did Kundalini, and I did Kundalini for many, many years. I think, I don't know, 9 years of Kundalini or something like this, but just like once a week, something like this, once a week, 1.5 hour lesson. And then I learned with you this daily practice of maybe only 5 to 10 minutes. That is what really I would say has been sinking in. And even now, even if I say I am not the yogi I want to be to do it every single day, when I feel I need support and I want to be more grounded and everything, I always come back to it. And that is the thing where I always come back to it. If I go to Kundalini class, whatever, whatsoever, that is not what gives me the foundation, what has given me this really knowing also that the part of really meditating. And if this meditation is only half of a minute to give you this break, this is what I think is the strength about when you say yoga and business. What is it? It is to find yourself and to center yourself every single day in the storm of your life happening. Okay?
Aho. Yes, it is, ma'am. That's how I feel. So.
And that you taught me through your way of doing yoga, and that came to me and really enriched my life.
And that's only that my way is my way and your way is your way. And then we get to come together like this. Yeah. So I love you. Yeah, I really thank you so much for being my friend and for you know, being so embodied, empowered in your life and facilitating your business of life, of motherhood, of friendship, of all the aspects you are. So I love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.